Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support I received from you. And as always, all the information in my videos is rumors taken from the internet or the street. I'm not saying the information is fact.
Pick your mans up.
Yeah, just because people used to come through shooting at us every day. And this block, words can't even explain, man. Can't even explain.
Yeah, man. Little School Valley, 05 way on money. Young Money, man. They in the building. 600 boy LA, man. LA Capone, man. Get it to him, man. OC2 boys, man. Team number 9, man. Number 9 shooter, you hear me?
Hey, bitch, you little bitch, yeah! What the fuck is wrong with you, hey, I am Brick Squad! Yeah, Brick Squad, what the fuck is you talking about, bro?
You have to be willing to die or go to jail for 100 years if that's the lane that you're stepping in. You have to understand that whether you're 15, 16, you got to think like a man, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so don't be in it. Oh, you're not? Why does everybody say you're only 16 years old?
They say what they want to say.
How old are you?
300.
The Story of No Limit Mad Max, Part 1.
Fuck these fuck niggas. Everybody. No limit run the city. Everybody. We not gonna play with nobody. Nobody. You get gunned down where I live with the steels and my shawty quick to kill. All the kills, they get real. Work on these on the drill. Get the cut, they see you, do they kill. Blood call you up from the cottage, you know I want to kill. My nigga Billy.
This is the story of No Limit's top shooter and killer, No Limit Mad Max, also known as C Money, or Killer Chris. This story is quite extraordinary because it is about a gangster who was respected, not only by his own gang but also by the enemies. They knew he had bodies, a lot of bodies. He has been mentioned in several songs by G Herbo as a murderer, who did not know how or when to stop. Tragically, he too would face the same fate as many of his victims. But what makes this particular story special is that Maxx allegedly snitched on the man who did it, on his deathbed. I make these stories with the greatest respect for all the people involved who have lost their lives or someone close to them. I want to bring awareness. This lifestyle is nothing to glorify. The majority of the people involved in my stories had no other choice than to live this lifestyle. If you have a choice, please don't become involved. This lifestyle ends with death or jail. I have not made calculations on this, but I can almost say with certainty that 70% of all the people I have mentioned in my videos are either dead or in prison. Mad Max, also known as C Money or Killer Chris, whose real name was Christopher Jackson, was born on July 14, 1995, in Chicago, Illinois. Christopher was raised mainly by his mother since his father, Michael Bolden Sr., passed away in 2007 when Max was only 12 years old. Max had many siblings, two of whom are well-known No Limit members, G Mineski and Mally, also known as Mr. Shoot Up the Party. Mally was born the same year as Christopher. However, there are many who believe that only Mally is his brother, but as far as I can tell from social media posts from themselves, they themselves claim that they all are blood brothers. But as I said, don't take my word for it. Either way, neither of them have the same parents. They all have different last names. Max also had several sisters, Jamia, Daria Maria, Tiara, Nea No Limit Losky, who allegedly is an actual member of No Limit. The three brothers really had a big family with a lot of members from No Limit. To my knowledge, Max had three uncles, Big Loss, Rodney, and White Folks, all dead. However, a lot of people claim White Folks as their uncle, so it's pretty unclear if he actually was their real uncle. But you can call him that either way because he was there for Mally, Mineski and Max their whole upbringing. After his father's death, a great responsibility was left on his mother's shoulders when she had to take care of all the children. Maxx also had to take a great responsibility because he was the older brother. This also meant that Maxx, G. Mineski and Mally started spending a lot of time with their uncles who were already out and well established on the street. Through their uncles, they also met other older members from No Limit such as Rugatti, Grelsky and G. Slim, who taught many younger members how to make money and how to move in the street. No Limit is very structured in that way. They have an older group of members who control No Limit and who teach the younger members about street life, mainly how to make money. That's the reason why No Limit pulls in large sums of money along with them controlling large parts of Terrortown. We'll talk about the uncles later in the story, since they play a big part in why Mad Maxx, Mally and G. Mineski started going crazy in the streets. Maxx also had a couple of cousins from No Limit. Among others, he was cousins with Flock and Magic. Just as I mentioned in those previous paragraphs, Mad Maxx got into the criminal path through his uncles who were already out on the streets, and taught them the ropes of street life. He also got to know people like Rock, Zale, Pat, Jock, and a lot of other people who today are either dead, in jail or No Limit OGs. No Limit's history is a very interesting story that I will now tell you. The 80s and 90s were among the most violent decades in Chicago's history. The problems with drugs, gangs and murders were extreme, and it was actually the area of 75th to 79th Street and Colfax to Yates that was the worst area of the South Shore. This area became known as Terrortown. Terrortown was mostly controlled by the Black P. Stones and gangster disciples. It was even defined as a BPS area by Jeff Ford's son back in the 90s, where No Limit was and still is one of the main branches in the Black P. Stone Nation area, Terrortown. Most people already know the basic history of No Limit since I told about it in both the story of KTS Von and Shoota Shells. They house on 77th to 79th, Essex to Saginaw and control a large part of Terrortown, which they share together with Black Mob. NLMB has several meanings. First and foremost, it stands for No Limit Muskegon Boys, but also Never Leave My Brothers, and No Limit, No Law. No Limit and Muskegon Boys were first two separated gangs that later merged and became NLMB. Muskegon Boys, MBG, was originally a small GD set housed on 78th and Muskegon Avenue, right off Exchange. They originated from the low buildings, and were later named and formed as Muskegon Boys by Dosky and Whitebread. What many do not actually know is that many famous NLMB members actually originally came from Muskegon Boys. For example, both Fazo and Kobe were from Muskegon Boys. Besides No Limit, Muskegon Boys are also cool with CMB due to family connections, Folly Boys since they also are EBK, and TYMB, also due to family ties. If you go to EBK Juvie's Instagram, there are several pictures with DYMB, Folly and of course ABK members with who No Limit has a heavy affiliation. Lakeside and Muskegon boys actually used to be cordial with each other, with Lakeside being the bigger set with over 100 members compared to Muskegon boys who just had over 20 members. Because of them being cordial in the past, Lakeside members used to say that Fazo was a Lakeside member, much like FBG Duck used to claim that King Von played both sides, because of him being around them in Hyde Park. No Limit heavily denied this claim by Lakeside. Around the years 2006 to 2008, people like Kobe, Zale and other younger members of Muskegon boys were bullied in many ways by Lakeside members, much like how Day 600 claimed he treated some of the younger members of 600 back when he was active. In the end, Zale and other younger members got fed up with the disrespect from Lakeside. They wanted to be on their own, make their own money and control their own blocks. But as you can probably guess, Lakeside did not tolerate this and started robbing and beating up members of Muskegon boys. In the end, the younger but also older members got enough of this and decided to go to war against Lakeside. However, the younger members did not have the power, money or weapons to do this. Instead, Fazo, who was the young chief of MBG, stepped in and started to let off shots on Lakeside together with his brother Fabione. Later, once people like Kobe and Zale got hold of weapons, they did the same thing. Fazo had a lot of respect in the street. He was chosen as the chief of the younger members by older gang members from Muskegon boys. He really was none to play with. All of this ended with Fazo allegedly catching a body on Lakeside in the middle of June 2008. Nutty, or Nutso, 26, whose real name was Larry Pickens, was shot while sitting on his porch at 7815 South Marquette Avenue. Tragically, he did not survive the shooting and later died at the hospital. It has long been rumored that Fazo was responsible for his death. Nutso was a very beloved member and was one of the originals, and Lakeside even adopted the nickname Nuttyville in his honor. The murder of Nutty would have frightful consequences for No Limit. Because just over a week later, not just one but 3 people were shot and killed. However, at least one of them, a 21-year-old woman, was an innocent bystander. The other 2 are said to have had connections with the Black P. Stones according to police. A woman and 2 men were shot dead in the triple murder that took place on June 29, 2008. The shooting took place in a South Shore apartment building near 78th and Kingston. 21-year-old Vanity Muff was with her boyfriend, Lawrence Terrell Jackson, and another man, Corey Washington, visiting a friend when all 3 were shot to death around 10 p.m. 2 of the victims were found in the foyer of the building, and the other was lying on the stairs, probably in the midst of trying to escape the gunfire. Both the foyer and the hallway were riddled with bullet holes. The scene was really gruesome. According to the police and the court documents, the murders appear to have been drug-related due to evidence they found in the apartment. However, family members did not believe the victims were the intended targets and that they were all innocent bystanders and quite simply were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Vanity's grandmother, Cleora, said that when Vanity got shot in the hallway, she was running away from what was going on and that it was not intended for her. A friend of Vanity's, Brittany, described her as cool and crazy. She was so in love with her boyfriend, she said. They lived together and they died together. The triple murder was prioritized by the police and 2 men were both convicted of the triple murder. According to court documents that can be read for free on the internet, a dispute arose between the victims and 4 Lakeside gangster disciples, Shannon, Snika, John and Raymond. According to the document, Shannon was the gunman while Raymond, who was friends with the victims but still aided the offenders by letting them inside the victim's building. A GD member named Jeremy, who testified in court against the offenders, stated that he himself was a gangster disciple and knew most of the people involved in the crime, including the gunman, Shannon. According to Jeremy, Raymond was a drug dealer that had sold him cocaine in the past. Jeremy also stated that on the night of the shooting, he observed Shannon and Raymond plan the crime. Both were later convicted of the crime. So now the war was really underway between Lakeside and No Limit. However, it was pretty quiet out on the streets after that. Sure, here were certainly shootings, robberies and fights, but there were no murders between the two. However, a little less than a year later, another war would start, the war between No Limit and Black Mob. Most people probably already know the story because I told it in the story of Shoot a Shells, but for those of you who do not know, I will now make a quick summary. Back in the days when Black Mob and No Limit used to be cool with each other, the gang's top priority was money, all thanks to the structure and leadership that existed in the gang from the older members. Especially No Limit has always been a set that prioritizes money above all else. Extreme amounts of money were made every day thanks to members like Lil Bibby who did nothing but sell drugs. The older members taught the younger ones, which created a bond between the younger ones and the older ones which does not exist today. Today there are lost kids who run around and kill each other. Anyway, No Limit sold drugs throughout Terrortown and even in Black Mob's territory. To be allowed to do so, however, they had to pay tax and show respect to Black Mob. An event that took place in 2009 would change the eastern side of Chicago forever, but especially the relationship between No Limit and Black Mob. Devious Johnson, also known as Vito, who was 21 at the time, was out selling drugs in Black Mob's territory. He did this without paying taxes and also showed no further respect towards Black Mob. Vito got violated by Black Mob because of this and was chased away from their territory. Hellrail, who is currently running NLMB, told Vito that he would go and shoot someone from Black Mob, which he did. The person he shot at was with his children at the incident. This was totally out of line with the street rules and it was from there that NLNL came from, which stands for No Limit, No Law. This incident was the start of a long-running war between the two gangs with countless gang murders. Because just a few days after that incident, the first body would be dropped between Black Mob and No Limit. Black Mob wanted revenge because of what Vito did, and it ended up being Vito who was murdered in revenge. Vito was standing on the street a few blocks from his home in the South Shore neighborhood, in the 7800 block of South Essex Avenue about 1:20 a.m. to be precise. Black Mob was out in No Limit's area to look for Vito and found him standing there on the street. Boo from Black Mob ran up to him and shot him in the chest. Vito was sadly pronounced dead at Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn an hour after the shooting. Boo from Black Mob, whose real name is Trinity Walton, was later charged with the murder and later convicted. Trinity was sentenced to 60 years in prison. He will be released in 2071. Vito was a beloved member from No Limit and his memory has been celebrated ever since, not least by G Herbo in many of his songs.
Yeah, but the last bitch, she said my dick was bigger than the elf. I fucked her in her ass. The next day I made her laugh and she shitted on herself.
Damn, that's my boy. That's my boy.
The murder of Vito took really hard on No Limit. It came as a shock to the members of No Limit. The war was now on with Black Mob. Black Mob continued to pressure No Limit and continued shooting up their blocks. The elderly in No Limit did not tolerate this and were prepared for full war. NLMB directly became BMK and MK, which stands for Black Mob Killer and Maniac Killer. However, it would take a long time before No Limit got revenge on Black Mob. It was actually not until 2011, 2 years later. During the 2 years, they were still pressured by Black Mob and No Limit's allies refused to help them, which resulted in No Limit becoming EBK, Everybody Killer, which resulted in new wars and tensions with their allies. NLMB has not always been EBK. Just as everyone knows, NLMB was first and foremost a Black P Stone set but later became a Renegade Stone, and still is in many ways even though most now claim EBK. However, there are members of No Limit who claim both BD, GD, EBK, and Black P Stone, so it is very mixed. Originally, No Limit was cool with most sets around Terror Town, because of them sharing the same nation with other gangs in the area. But after No Limit starting wars against many sets around the area for various reasons, and thereby going against their own nation, the different sets on the eastern side began to merge and go to war together against No Limit, which is by far the most resourceful gang on the east side, both in terms of money and members. Because of No Limit being such a mixed set with people who claim BD, GD, Black P Stones, and EBK, as well as because of family ties all over the city, different cliques within No Limit are cool with different gangs around the city. You had G Slim, who was the uncle of Melly and Wu from 051 Young Money, which resulted in several members from No Limit being cool with 051 through G Slim. For example, there is a picture of Lil Bibby and G Squeak with Melly. Bibby was cool with both sides, O Block, Lamron, Front Street, 600 and 051 Young Money. Bibby seldom indulged in any beef that had nothing to do with it. But then there are those such as Mineski, G Herbo and Mally who heavily claim GDK. There is Doo-Wop who also claims GBE and is not cool with 051 at all since they beef with O Block, 600 and Front Street. There are those who are cool and not cool with Sircon City Gangsters, Lamron, THF 46 and so on. Cairo, for example, has family ties with THF 46 that he is cool with, but also STL/EBT which he is not cool with because he is closer to people from A Block and THF 46. Nowadays, No Limit is ruled by Hellrail, also known as G-Rail or Rugatti, the same guy who sent Vito to shoot at Black Mob over a decade ago. Hellrail was the one who took over as leader after the last Don, White Folks, passed away in 2011 after being shot by a Lakeside member in 2006 while sitting in a car. White Folks, however, survived the shooting but died tragically 5 years later due to the injuries. No Limit's original leaders for this generation besides White Folks were G-Bull, G Slim, Big Wet, and G Gill. 3 of them are dead, and G Gill, who was named by the FBI as the general in No Limit, was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2012 for selling drugs and illegal firearms. G Gill also admitted to the FBI that he had been involved in shooting at other people on 5 to 10 different occasions, and believed that he hit the people he was aiming at in roughly half of these shootings. According to court documents, G Gill admitted that he first joined the Black P Stone Nation while he was in grade school. He was subsequently convicted of aggravated battery with a firearm and aggravated discharge of a firearm, which arose from a drive-by shooting that killed 1 victim and wounded 4 others. He was later convicted of aggravated battery of a Chicago police officer. It's been rumored that all of these top members had bodies from back in the days. Big Wet was arrested twice on murder charges back in the days and had nearly 4 dozen of arrests during his lifetime according to police. As I said before, No Limit controlled a large territory in Terror Town. In order to do so and keep it, G-Bull and G-Gill had different sections of Terror Town they ran, and where they led the younger members. It is very difficult for one person to keep track of such a large area that No Limit actually covers. This division also led to members coming up under different leaders. For example, Lil Bibby, White Sean, G-Money, and G-Newski came from 78th and came up under G-Bull, while members like G-Herbo, Jock, Mineski, and Mad Maxx came from 79th and came up under G-Gill. There were quite big differences between the leaders. G-Gill is rumored to have been more of a shooter than money maker, while G-Bull was all about the money. Bibby and G-Money are today big money makers since Juice WRLD and the Kid Laroi are signed to their label, or he was at least. There are rumors that he has changed his label. Herb, Mineski, Jock, and Mad Maxx were known shooters more than money makers, so you can actually see the difference between their apprentices. Now back to the timeline. Just 2 months after Vito's assassination, No Limit lost another major member, Prince Chico. What is also important to know is that there were 2 Chico, Big Chico, and Prince Chico, also known as J-Mo. Big Chico was the father of rock and was killed by Andre from No Limit 083, Tony World on December 5, 2007. Andre was sentenced to 15 years in prison for first-degree murder. Big Chico was also the uncle of Lil T from THF 46 and the cousin of Gucci from NLMB, Rookieville. Now back to the other Chico, Prince Chico, also one of the last dons as many No Limit members called him. Prince Chico, whose real name was James Robinson, was shot to death on July 2, 2009, at about 10 p.m. near 79th Street and Yates. James, 26, was found on the street with a gunshot wound to the head. Now we come to a rather unknown part of history, a murder where I have been wrong on the date before, but which I have now got the correct history from reliable sources. The murder of Deo, or more known as Dick Headerhead, from Black Mob, Lakeside. After the murder of Vito, Hell Rell was eager to take revenge on Black Mob, a death and war he really caused from the beginning. It did not take long before No Limit got their revenge. Hell Rell started sending out shooters to try to get revenge on Black Mob. 6 months later, No Limit got their revenge, and Christopher became Killer Chris. There is not much information about the murder itself, and it took a long time before I found the name and identity on his picture, as I only knew his nickname, Deo. Deo, or Dickhead, was an old member from Lakeside, Black Mob, but was well respected in the streets. He was most known for beating up people. According to people from Lakeside, he really had boxing skills. Several people from Black Mob and Lakeside have stated that he was a demon and that he was not someone to play with. Deo, whose real name was Deontay Williams, 23, was out walking on a sidewalk in the 8100 block of South Manistee Avenue about 3:20 am. It is rumored that Mad Maxx ran up to Deo and shot him to death, leaving him bleeding on the sidewalk. Mad Maxx's possible involvement in the murder of Deontay was the beginning of a murder spree that is almost unparalleled. It is rumored that Mad Maxx was involved in over a dozen murders on the east side of Chicago and was by far No Limit's top killer. He was a feared member all over the east side and the south side. They all knew what he was about. G Herbo has mentioned him several times in his songs with lines like, "Max was on them hits, so he could not have no feelings, all them bitches under his belt and ain't got no civilians," and Mad Maxx, playing Call of Duty, had 50 kills. Max has also been mentioned by enemies as someone who killed everyone. A little less than a year later, No Limit lost another member, one of No Limit Muskegon Boys' younger leaders, G Fazo. Just like I told you earlier in the story, Fazo was one of the few from Muskegon Boys who fought back against Lakeside after many members were bullied by them. Fazo, whose real name was Fazion Robinson, was shot to death on April 12, 2010. More than a decade ago, time really flies. Fazo was found with a gunshot wound to the back in the 2900 block of East 79th Street. Fazo, only 19 years old, was taken to South Shore Hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Fazion had three brothers, Fabione, Fabius, and Farrakhan. All three of his brothers are alive, Pharaoh, Fabius, and Fabione. After his brother's death, the talented basketball player Fabione decided to invest fully in basketball, and is today a professional basketball player for Texas A&M University and has also played in the French League. Fabione went to Hyde Park Academy where, among others, King Von and G Herbo also went. In August 2010, Fabione was granted a letter of release from his basketball scholarship at the University of Houston, according to his former high school coach, Donnie. Donnie said Fabione, who would have been a freshman, left for personal and family reasons. He's not over his brother and his cousin's death, Donnie said. Mentally, he's not ready to go down there. I think maybe he got homesick a little bit. Just as I mentioned earlier, Fazo got shot and killed earlier that year, and within 3 weeks that same year, Fabione also lost a cousin and a close friend. The four brothers had a very similar family situation as Shoota Shells. In 1997, when both Fabione and Fazo were only 6 years old, their mother was tragically found raped and murdered 1997 while being pregnant. Words cannot describe the evilness. All of this, of course, had a profound effect on the four brothers who had to grow up without their mother. Fazo's grandmother, Charlene, raised and took care of her grandchildren after her daughter was killed. Charlene was scared that something would happen to her three grandchildren that were left after the murder of Fazo, and said that she could not wait until they moved out of Chicago. The person who has long been rumored to be Faye Zion's killer is Lil Jon from Lakeside. Lil Jon is a heavily respected member who pretty much runs Lakeside together with Hell Rel. In a live stream on Instagram where KTS Dre talked to Cairo from No Limit, Cairo stated that Dre was scared of Lil Jon, and that Jon is the real Lakeside. Juvie from No Limit also posted a story on Instagram where said that Lil Jon banned Dre from Lakeside, and that's why he became cutthroat. Why this dispute arose between Dre and Jon is unknown. What many do not know is that not long after Fayzo was shot to death, Lil Jon was rumored to have been shot by the famous rapper G Herbo, or Lil Herb as he was called back then. This gave Lil Herb a lot of respect, to dare to shoot such a high-profile and respected member as Lil Jon. Fortunately, Lil Jon survived the shot and was able to leave the hospital quickly. This is why G Herbo has a lot of respect from No Limit's main frontline members. You need to understand this. You don't get that kind of respect from nowhere from heavy members like Mineski, Mally, Mad Maxx and Crazy James, and it's not because he's a worldwide known rapper and making a lot of money. Herbo had that respect way before that. Best believe him when he says he has shot people, been in the front line with Mad Maxx, and been on plenty of hits, and this leads us to the next event in the story, the murder of Christian from No Limit 083.
Nigga, go stand somewhere and go live. On your block. Go stand somewhere and go live. He's scared of Lil Jon. That's the real Lakeside, nigga. He's scared of Lil Jon, bro.
But before we do that, I was just going to mention an event that I know nothing about, but that I read about in a tweet. Apparently, Mad Maxx got locked up in late 2010 for shooting somebody. I cannot say more about the incident because there are no public records about it, due to Mad Maxx being a minor at the time. Now we have come to a quite unknown part of the story, at least for the majority of people watching, and that is the murder of Christian from No Limit 083, and G Herbo possible involvement in the murder. Here I want to be careful to point out that this is a rumor. I tell about the rumor, nothing else. I do not say that it is true or false. This is because there is very little information about the murder and nobody has talked about it. On May 23, 2011, Christian was found fatally shot outside his grandparents' home at 8519 South Muskegon Avenue. According to police, he was shot multiple times and was pronounced dead on the scene. It is rumored that G Herbo was one of the shooters, and that this was revenge after No Limit 083's involvement in the murder of Big Chico, Rock's father, which I told about earlier. However, many believe that Christian was not a gang member and was not involved in that life. G Herbo was actually a shooter, believe it or not. It is rumored that he shot Lil Jon, who allegedly killed Fayzo. He is also rumored to have shot Fromo and Black from Black Mob, who was believed to be the ones who shot him in the foot in 2012. Two years after the murder of Deo from Black Mob, and only a month after the murder of Christian, No Limit struck again. Yet again on Black Mob. There was an important reason why No Limit eventually started going wild on Black Mob, riding through and shooting up their block often. The seniors in No Limit, not least Jeff Fort's nephew, constantly wanted to prevent the war with Black Mob, and continued to keep the structure and things calm in Terrortown. However, in June 2011, several arrests were made in Terrortown when, among others, Jeff Fort's nephew was arrested. There were no longer any real senior figures who could stop the war now. Now the younger ones in No Limit started looking for revenge. Just days after the mass arrest, No Limit got their revenge. Pistol P from NLMB allegedly caught Hakeem from Black Mob on the 2400 block of East 75th Street, and put multiple shots in him. He was sadly later pronounced dead at 11:20 a.m. at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. 5 months later, the next body was dropped in the war. Allegedly, Cratehead from No Limit caught Rayvon, only 18 years old, from Black Mob, near a bus stop in the 2400 block of East 75th Street. According to rumors, Cratehead shot him in the back of the head and then fled the scene. Rayvon was later pronounced dead at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Cratehead was really the definition of EBK. What not many people know is that Rayvon was the member who was rumored to have shot Crazy James in 2010. Just 6 days after Cratehead allegedly caught Rayvon, it was No Limit that would lose a member, and not just any member, but Mr. No Limit himself, or the last on, White Folks. However, this death is a bit special as White Folks died of injuries from 5 years before he passed away in 2011. White Folks, whose real name was Carmichael, was shot by Lakeside members in 2006 while sitting in his car. He remained in critical condition for a long time but could later leave the hospital, but tragically White Folks died of his injuries 5 years later on November 7, 2011. White Folks was one of the big leaders of No Limit and was also the big brother of Cairo. Mally, Mineski and Mad Maxx called White Folks their uncle. If they are really blood related is unknown, but White Folks was there for them during their upbringing and taught them about street life, just like Grelsky, Ramo, and a few other older members from No Limit did. Maxx often hung around members that were older than him, that showed him how to do hits and make money. Maxx, Mineski and Mally were truly hurt after White Folks passed away, and claimed that it really was a turning point in their lives. They started to slide more often. They no longer saw any consequences that could stop them from going wholeheartedly into the street life. Most gang members have that turning point in their early teenage years that just flips a switch in their brain that makes them see black. Most often it is because you see something that traumatizes them. If you are shot at or that one of their friends or family is killed, it does something to your brain. White Folks was truly a strong leader for No Limit. According to Flock from No Limit, who was a cousin of White Folks, it was stated that it was White Folks who gave the younger No Limit members the green light to turn up on their enemies after the mass arrest in 2011, and so they did. We have now reached a major turning point for No Limit and many younger members who are known today. I'm talking about the double murder of Rock and Alamo from No Limit, and 5 assassination attempts on No Limit members, including Rashad, G. Farrow and Wet 'Em Up. A group of members from No Limit stood outside a liquor store in the 2500 block of East 79th Street, at the intersection with Essex Avenue on February 19, 2012. Suddenly a beige car pulled up on the street. KTS Vaughn, who was in the car with KTS Stray and Mac Main, opened fire from inside the car with his Tech 9. He started spraying bullets into the group of people. Rock and Alamo, who were both hit by several bullets, died instantly on the spot. Rock was hit while running into the store while Alamo was standing outside and was hit by multiple bullets. What many do not know is that Rashad, Wet 'Em Up and G. Farrow were 3 of the 5 who were injured by the bullets and luckily survived. 4 of the wounded, not including Alamo and Rock, were treated and released from the hospital pretty quickly. However, Wet 'Em Up, who was shot in the stomach, had to undergo surgery, and many actually thought he had died. This became a turning point in his life. The scene was left completely bloody with bodies lying everywhere according to witnesses to the incident. In total, 2 people were killed and 5 people injured. Bullet holes fans all around the place and into the store. Body after body was carried out on a stretcher, injured as well as dead. Gregory Alamo Glincy was a 57-year-old father to 4 children. Family members of Gregory say that he was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, that he had left dinner to go down and shop in the store. However, the Alamo was not an innocent angel as many would like it to be. He taught many young No Limit members how to trap and slide, and certainly had his not-so-innocent days himself as well. Jamal Rock Harris, 19, was as well a loved member, just like Kobe. NLMB adopted the nickname Rock Block in his honor, and is until this day honored by No Limit and not least by G Herbo in many of his songs.
Yeah, this is boy Lil Rock with Gutter Team, Crazy KPNT, Breadwinner ENT, Gutter Team ENT, Yeah, I celebrate every motherfucking body in the world with the guns and the 12-gauge shotty. See, man, on my money, and I gotta go and get paid. Gotta get rich, and I gotta go ahead and get laid. Found a good, nasty bitch, I love to suck a nigga dick. Me, I'm on this hot shit, me, I'm flying in this bitch. 232 years in the world, this city, the world been fucked up. In the look real, they killing all type of people. Man on that fucking soul, man on my fucking money. Never feel fucking old. Me, I'm on this paper shit. Me, I'm on this paper shit. I'm trying to get rich, I'm trying to go ahead and hit a lick. I grind how I wanna grind, shine how I wanna shine. Money on my
Not long after the double murder of Rock and Alamo and the 5 assassination attempts, another mass shooting took place against No Limit. This time, 8 people were shot. But this time, luckily, everyone survived. Lil Bibby even mentioned this event in a DJ Vlad interview in December 2013. You could see and hear how he talked about it, that it traumatized him. Lil Bibby wasn't shot himself, but he said he saw all of his homies on the ground, wounded by bullets from a passing vehicle. According to police, 2 people inside a passing car opened fire on a large group of people in the 7800 block of South Essex Avenue. 8 people were struck by bullets with the ages ranging from 14 to 28 years old. One of the men that was hit was Lil Herb, who was shot in the foot. Other No Limit members that were hit in the shooting were Pat, Ramo, G. Pharaoh, Marty, Merch Money and Mally. G. Pharaoh got shot 5 times in the leg. About an hour after the shooting, a dozen police cars left the shooting scene and sped to the South Shore Motel, 8101 South Stony Island Avenue. Police with rifles surrounded the hotel, as they initially believed the gunmen were inside. A car that was believed to belong to the suspects was also nearby. It was riddled with bullet holes and had blood on the hood, police said. Police also found a trail of blood leading from the car to one of the rooms, the Sun-Times Media Wire reported. By 1 a.m., police had called off the barricade situation, after SWAT team members entered the room and found no one inside. Surveillance video showed 2 men left just before officers arrived, but they did leave 2 guns behind, the Wire reported. Police tell the Sun-Times 2 warring factions of the Black P Stones have been fighting for about a month now at the site where the shooting happened.
Eight of my homies that got shot. Nobody died though. It was the good thing. It was a lot of leg shots, but that was a little. It was ugly because you ain't know. Like it was just a whole lot of all my homies laying on the ground looking like damn. That shit was fucked up.
Eight of your friends got shot. That just sounds insane when you say it. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know if I have 8 friends. You know, much less seeing all of them shot.
But it was all leg shots, so everybody was straight. It ain't shit.
Have you ever gotten shot yourself?
No, God been with me, man. Then all my homies did. The bullet ain't even touched me.
Really? Have you ever been actually in a situation where shots were fired off?
Oh man, yeah, a lot of times, man. I can't even count.
A lot of times, really.
No Limit did not let this mass shooting slide without revenge, and basically did the same thing back. Just a day after the shooting, G Herbo tweeted, "Go follow the shooter No Limit Mineski," and followed up that tweet with the text, "Just got off the phone with the shooter, told him I need to see some on the news. Hashtag NLMB. 2 days later, No Limit got their revenge, and Herbo tweeted it out with the text, "Andy just called me, Like 3 people got shot on the 5, I don't care. For those who do not know, the 5 is black mob territory. Like I said before, G Herbo's aunt lived in black mob territory. The shooter in that situation was most likely Boogie and G Mineski from No Limit, who Herbo called 2 days before. The shooters that gunned down the 8 members from No Limit were rumored to have been Fromo and Black from Black Mob, who Herbo allegedly shot later on a different occasion. It was after the murder of both Rock and Alamo that a high-profile event would take place on October 24, 2012. Of course, I'm talking about the YouTube video, No Lackin' Part 3. KTS Vaughn, KTS Stray, Pasto and Don Don caught No Limit Kobe, Cairo, Moody and another No Limit member inside of a McDonald's on No Limit's turf. KTS Stray, who was older, approached 17-year-old Cairo and told him, "Say F Rock." Cairo, stand-up member as he is, refused to say it, and then Dre hit him with his right hand. Moody then came out of a toilet with a gun in his waistband. KTS then left the restaurant and headed back to their hood. NLMB then quickly retrieved the weapons and followed them. They had both automatic weapons and pistols with them. Moody, Kobe and Cairo began letting off shots. Pasto ended up getting shot in the arm, allegedly by Kobe. They all ran back towards their hood in horror, except KTS Vaughn, who laughed and ran and filmed everything. KTS Vaughn really became the most hated enemy after these 2 events. No Limit was eager to get rid of him. G Herbo actually acknowledged this incident in a song that was dropped 2015. The song is called Back at It Part 3, with both Herbo and his close friend Smoke to Dawn on the track. Herbo started off dissing both Dead Lakeside and Black Mob members when he said, "I'm smoking on Pasto, I'm smoking on Bud, Lil Scoobs and T-Bone." Later in the song he would acknowledge what happened at McDonald's, where he said, "YouTube the No Lacking 3 video, yeah, a few of them gone. All of them gone." One person who was very close to Rock was Mad Maxx. There are even photos of both together. They were often with each other, them together with Lil Bibby's older brother White Sean. No Limit, but mainly Mad Maxx, was looking for blood and revenge after the brutal double murder of Rock and Alamo. 9 months after the double murder, No Limit and Mad Maxx got their revenge. On November 10, 2012, No Limit took revenge on Lakeside. The gang member Anthony Bagsby, also known as Bud, was out walking in the 2600 block of East 79th Street about 12:55 p.m., which was pretty bold of him since it's basically No Limit's main territory, and actually near the same McDonald's where altercation took place between KTS Vaughn, Dre, Cairo and the others a month back. This reckless move would sadly punish him. At the same time as Anthony was out, it is rumored that Ant, Merch Money, Cairo and Mad Maxx were also out for blood. They saw Anthony walking on the sidewalk, and according to the witness, 4 young men in their 20s ran up to Anthony and shot him multiple times in his chest to later be seen running from the scene. Those 4 people were allegedly the 4 I just mentioned. Anthony, 20, was taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital in serious condition where he was later pronounced dead. According to police, Anthony had a lengthy criminal record and was known to have gang affiliations. A memorial of stuffed teddy bears and a poster with messages from friends stood on the corner of East 79th Street and South Saginaw Avenue the Tuesday following Bagsby's death. The poster had notes addressed to Bud, Bagsby's nickname. One man standing by the memorial declined to give his name, but did describe who Bagsby was. He was a nice guy, the man said. He was a gangbanger, but somebody dropped something on Anthony, so his mental state was not even really there anymore. The man remembered Bagsby as a laid-back, mellow guy, who never said too much but added he hung around with the wrong crowd. He was out here every day, the man said, adding he believed Bagsby was homeless when he died.
That's right. Oh yeah. And shout outs to my nigga J Money for you know what I'm saying, doing this thing.
Hey, wait, yo, hey, shout out to the Dukes. You feel me? Cold, 70 seconds. Look, shout out to 79 Park Break, you know we running shit. Shout out to 78 and Marshfield.
This was not a random murder. There is actually a direct reason why Bud was murdered. A little less than 2 weeks earlier, Carlos Alexander, also known as Big Loss, from No Limit had been killed. This Big Loss was not just anyone for Mad Max. Big Loss was his uncle, his real uncle. Anthony was rumored to have been present at the murder of Big Loss together with KTS Vaughn and Vinny. Both Mally and Max were truly hurt after their loss of their uncle Carlos, and both really started to turn up in the streets after this. This was allegedly Mad Max's second murder under his belt at the age of only 17. However, Max was just warming up. 5 months later he would strike again. Yet again on Lakeside. But this time together with G Herbo. This was the first part of the story of No Limit Mad Max. The next part drops in 2 months. Psych, it drops on the 1st of October, next Friday. Thank you for watching this video. Like and comment on what you think of it. Rest in peace to all who have lost their lives in the gang wars. Hope you enjoyed it.